Hello, so today I just wanted to do a quick story time since it is 2 years to the day after this story takes place. Um, so it's a pretty fun story. A few people, actually, a lot of people already know it, but 2 years ago I had just completed my first few days of classes at college. I was a freshman, moved in, the week before I did orientation, had a few classes. And that weekend, my friends and I were in the kitchen in the first year residence hall. We were cooking. My one friend, he made chicken strips for us. It was really good. So he had a knife and he was cutting the chicken. And after he finished the chicken, he cleaned the knife and we were trying to have popsicles, the push pop ones that you see all the time in the summer because they're really cheap. You just cut the top off and then you can just have a popsicle. Well, we had those in our freezer, so he decided that he wanted to get some out for us, but because it was so new to the school year and the kitchen was also just renovated, there were no scissors in the kitchen, which seems kind of weird, but whatever. And no one wanted to go upstairs to get any scissors. So he decided to use the knife that he had just washed to cut open these popsicles. So he's cutting them open, and my drink is sitting on the counter. Well, my cup, it was just a tumbler. It had Kool-Aid or something in it, grape juice, I don't know. But anyway, he knocks it over while handing me the popsicle. And the cup tumbles, and him and I both reach to catch the cup. And as a result, I ended up with a pretty good stab wound because he was still holding the knife in his hand. So I caught the cup in my hand like this, upside down, and I looked at the floor and I saw this big puddle. And a lot of people thought in the room that the cup had spilled and that's what was on the floor. But little did they know that the cup was empty. So I looked down and I immediately realized what happened. So I pull my hand up and you can see the scar right here. I was bleeding all over the floor very quickly because it cut a vein or an artery that was right there by my tendon in my finger. So I looked down at the floor and I'm like, oh no. And then he realizes what happened because I looked at my hand, and then I grab my hand and run over to the sink to put it under cold water to try to rinse it out and to try to put the pressure on it to stop bleeding. So I put it in the water and blood is going everywhere. It's pouring out of my hand. There's a trail of blood leading from from where I was to the sink on the floor. And I'm rinsing it out and I'm telling people to call campus and public safety so that I can go to the hospital because I know that I need stitches. I just know it. So there's probably 5 other people in this room, and so I'm freaking out because, well, actually I wasn't really freaking out, but I'm bleeding, so I'm dealing with my own situation. And the guy that stabbed me was freaking out because he had just stabbed me and he felt really bad, but he was staying next to me while I was at the sink, and I was yelling for them to call campus public safety. And they were like, we're gonna try to call the RA on duty. And I said, no, call campus public safety because I'm gonna have to go to the hospital and they're gonna have to take me. And so they are all standing there. Someone eventually does get a hold of the RA. The RA comes down and the RA sees the situation and is very confused because there's big blood stain on the floor. People are wiping at the blood, trying to clean it up. I'm bleeding in the sink. I had, at this point, I think taken a paper towel and pressed it against my hand to try to stop the bleeding. But I was also getting very lightheaded from bleeding so much and the shock and the adrenaline and all that. So I walk over next to the wall and I lean against the wall because I'm afraid that I'm gonna pass out. So I sit down on the floor and the RA is there and she's calling CPS to come take me to the hospital. And I'm sitting there and she's telling me to hold my hand above my head to slow the bleeding down, but I'm already so out of it at this point that my hands just keep like coming down in front of me. And she keeps telling me to put my hands up so that I'm not gonna pass out. And then campus of public safety comes. The guy that stabbed me, my friend, he goes up to my room just upstairs to get my wallet so I can get my insurance card and everything else. And we go to the ER. This was probably around 8:30. So the hospital's only a few minutes away from campus, so it wasn't that big of a deal. Got there pretty quickly. You know, it's fine. I go to the ER and they register me, check me in, and I'm waiting. But right when I got there, an ambulance just pulled in, so we had to wait like a really long time to be processed. So I'm waiting there, and at this point, I've decided to not text my parents that I am injured because I figured, you know what, I'll just text them after the whole situation is over, you know, once I'm out of the hospital, don't have to worry about it. And so I'm sitting there and we're waiting. My friend that stabbed me came with me, and one of the school's administrators that was on call had to come with me as well because that's the procedure. So we're sitting there and I'm on my phone and I get a text from my dad and he says, "What are you up to?" Mind you, it's a Saturday night and I am at the hospital. So he sees my location on the like find my friends thing. And I'm like, oh, you know, I got stabbed. So I'm explaining the situation to him. It is really funny, like it's not anything crazy, but so he's like, oh, okay, you know, 1 week of school and now you're at the hospital. It's just the irony of the situation. It's so funny. But anyway, so I finally go back into the like area to be checked out, you know, so they can look at it. And she asked me to remove the paper towel, which I've had actually before this whole thing happened. She had checked it out and saw it and then wrapped it with gauze so that I didn't have to sit there and hold the paper towel that was there. So that was really nice. But before I could get stitches or anything, that's what we did. And she said I had done a really good job at stopping the bleeding, so proud of myself for that one. But after a long time, I finally get to go back and am in a, you know, waiting room, waiting to get my stitches, laying in the bed, chair, hospital bed, whatever it is, sitting there waiting, and this guy comes in, the nurse, I guess, who was gonna give me my stitches. I don't know if he was a nurse or a doctor. I think he was working towards getting his medical degree. I don't know. But turns out that he had also gone to W&J, so that was kind of funny. And so he gives me my stitches. So I get 7 stitches, and then they also discovered that there was like another cut on the side, so they ended up gluing that part because they didn't want to put another stitch in. And so I got 7 stitches after 7 days of college, which is the joke. And it was all over popsicles. So that's really fun. But then I had stitches for, you know, a few weeks until it was ready for them to come out. But instead of going to the hospital to get them out like you were supposed to, don't do this at home. But my friend, Bella, she is very much into like medical stuff, especially at the time. She decided that she really wanted to take out my stitches. So I texted my parents this because I thought it was funny and I wasn't thinking too much about it. But my parents were like, just let her take out your stitches. Just make sure you sanitize everything. So I did. And she took out my stitches. Shout out to Bella. This one's for you because she also reminded me that today was 2 years of this event happening. But yeah, and so after that, I had missed going to this like place we have on campus at the hub where every weekend we can get free milkshakes and like snacks and stuff. and I really wanted a free milkshake. So at this point, we left the hospital at like 12:30. So the place where we get milkshakes is closed. Oh my gosh, I have an itch. So since the place is closed, my friends decide they're gonna be really nice and they're going to take me to Eaton Park to get a milkshake. So afterwards we went and we had milkshakes at like 1 in the morning, and then I went back, you know, to campus and everything was fine. But that's the story of me getting stabbed the first week of school. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, or don't, it's fine, I don't care what you do.